In the Kremlin, scenarios for ending the war in Ukraine without a declared victory are being worked out with increasing intensity. This conclusion was reached by journalist Owen Matthews in his column for The Telegraph. This was reported by the BBC. In his assessment, this is not about a genuine peace process, but rather an attempt to prepare Russian society in advance for a scenario in which the declared goals of the war will not be achieved. However, the result will be presented as acceptable. Matthews points out that it is becoming increasingly difficult to justify the continuation of the war by appealing to state interests. Economic pressure, losses at the front, diplomatic isolation, and the lack of a strategic breakthrough no longer add up to the image of a victorious war. At the same time, as noted in the article, Vladimir Putin himself still does not demonstrate a clear exit strategy from the war, while the very system of power is increasingly sinking into a state of internal blockade. According to Matthews, the massive drone attack on Moscow and the Moscow region became a serious signal for the Kremlin. In his assessment, Ukraine is already capable of striking even the most well-protected regions of Russia, and the potential for such attacks will only continue to grow. It is against this backdrop, the author emphasizes, that cautious wording about ending the conflict is beginning to appear in the Russian political sphere, still without specifics, but already hinting at its eventual conclusion. The Kremlin has found itself in a political trap. Society simultaneously longs for the end of the war and expects victory. Any compromise risks being perceived as a sign of weakness by the authorities. Among the possible approaches, however, are shifting the focus from maximalist goals to the objectives already achieved, reinterpreting the start of the war as a limited operation, and preparing the information space for a mission-accomplished formula without an actual victory. At the same time, according to the author, harsher measures are also being considered, in particular, neutralizing the radically minded supporters of the war who may perceive any compromise as betrayal. The Washington Post reports that the Russian administration is already discussing options for shaping the image of victory for its domestic audience. Among the possible talking points is the claim that Russia supposedly never planned to capture Kyiv, and that the key objectives have already been achieved. Analysts also note that Putin's rhetoric about a possible end to the war is more likely connected not to a change in objectives, but to mounting internal pressure, public fatigue, economic difficulties, and social tension. The situation on the battlefield also remains extremely difficult for Moscow. Despite controlling approximately 20% of Ukrainian territory, Russian forces have still not managed to fully capture the Donbas, one of the Kremlin's key stated objectives. At the same time, Ukraine, for its part, continues to intensify drone strikes on Russian infrastructure, oil and gas facilities, and military targets deep within Russian territory. As The Economist notes, for the first time since October 2023, Russia is recording small but steady territorial losses. This does not indicate a turning point, but it does point to a slowdown in offensive potential. Even minor changes to the front line today are achieved at the cost of enormous human and material resources. Military analyst Franz Stefan Gadi points out, Ukraine is indeed in a stronger position than previously expected, but the war is developing in cycles. Both sides are adapting, and local advantages do not guarantee a strategic outcome. According to him, at this stage, it is only possible to make confident forecasts a few weeks ahead. As the Wall Street Journal writes, the summer may become the period when it becomes clear whether Ukraine can turn its tactical and technological advantage into a strategic breakthrough. That's all for now. Write what you think about this.